Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Injury Law Pod. I am your host, Eric Bartlett, 29-year personal injury lawyer, and this is the podcast where we talk about all things personal injury law related. And today we're going to continue our deep dive on hiring a personal injury lawyer. Last week, on the first episode of this three-part series, we talked about cases that may not actually need a personal injury lawyer. And when you do need a personal injury lawyer and recognizing those differences. Again, just to recap a little bit, some cases where maybe there's minimal injury, there's clear liability, right? It's no question who's at fault. There's plenty of insurance coverage, and it doesn't look like there's going to be any long term medical problems. That may not be a great case to hire a personal injury lawyer. They the lawyer just may not be able to provide value to the client. And I talked about how at our law firm, we're upfront with people. If we don't think we're going to provide real value to you as the injured person, we're not going to get involved because we don't want to set expectations and have disappointment at the end. But on the other hand, there are absolutely cases that need an experienced personal injury lawyer involved. And those are situations where there's a serious injury, maybe a commercial vehicle is involved. Maybe there's a question about how the accident happened, a dispute in who exactly is at fault. There might be insurance limit issues. The insurance company may be putting up roadblocks to make the claim. They want a recorded statement from the injured person, and there may be long-term ramifications coming from this injury that needs to be fully explored and addressed and put together to make sure the person that's injured is getting full and fair compensation. So we did a whole examination of when and when not you should have the lawyer involved and reasons why people don't necessarily get a lawyer involved and why that can be costly. And today we're going to turn our attention when you've made the decision that a lawyer should be involved, how to choose the right personal injury lawyer. Red flags, green flags, and the questions that matter when you're going about that process of choosing the lawyer that is going to come alongside you and help you with your injury claim. You know, my goal here in this episode today is to teach you how to evaluate lawyers intelligently, not just go off of catchy slogans. Again, in the marketing world, everybody wants to have a catchy slogan, something that sticks in people's minds so that they're top of mind if somebody needs them. But you got to go deeper than that. Marketing gets attention, competence gets results. And that's the important thing to think about as we delve into choosing the right lawyer for you. So, again, why does hiring a lawyer feel so confusing? There's the billboard lawyer versus reality, the TV lawyer versus reality. There's maybe reviews of the lawyer without context. And there can be settlements put out there, settlement amounts without details. And again, all important things to keep in mind. Most people don't know what they should be looking for, and that's not their fault. So let's talk about some red flags that should give you pause. Number one, guarantees. And again, ethically speaking, lawyers are not allowed to guarantee results. And if a lawyer is telling you pie in the sky type things about your claim and about your case, you should take a pause there. The other one is rushed signups. If you're talking to a lawyer or their office and you feel a pressure, a push to get you in the door as their client, and you're really not getting answers, but you're just feeling that pressure, that should give you pause. Vague answers, you need to watch for that. So you're asking questions and you're getting vague answers. Now, I'm not saying that when you're calling a lawyer and you're giving them an overview of your situation, you can't expect necessarily a dialed down answer on everything. Well, a common question that we hear from somebody calling in, what do you think the value of this claim is worth? And they're really trying to figure out, is this worth me hiring a lawyer? But when somebody asks me, what's the value of my claim? I tell them on the phone there, that's a difficult question for me to answer right now because number one, I don't have your medical records or your medical bills in front of me. I don't know exactly how much time you've lost from work. I don't know what the future, that's always the really big problem. I don't know what the future looks like for you as we sit here on the phone right now. Are you going to miss more time from work? Are you going to need more extensive medical treatment, things like that? So those are difficult questions to answer with a reasonable amount of detail on an initial call. Those things will become clearer as we move down the road. But if you're asking questions that generally should be able to get answered with some level of detail, and you're just getting vague answers, that's something you should be cautious about and really think about, is this the right lawyer for me? And again, if you call and you're talking to a law firm and you're not real clear on who is going to be involved in your case at the law firm, it's not clear, this is going to be my lawyer, this is going to be my case manager. And especially if you've signed up with them and you don't have that answer, that's a red flag. And the other thing is, if you haven't gotten an explanation of what the process looks like for your claim, you don't have really any good roadmap of what to expect. Again, another red flag. Just keep in mind, pressure is rarely a sign of quality. Lawyers that have plenty of clients and have been doing this a long time, there's no need for them to put pressure on you to get signed up and get in the door before you're ready, before you feel like this is a law firm. They're answering my questions. They're laying out that roadmap for me. I feel good about going with this law firm. You need to make sure that you're there in that state of mind before you pull the trigger and hire that law firm. So, what does matter? What are the green flags of a law firm that you probably want to work with? Just the opposite of what we just talked about. Clear explanations. When you're talking to the lawyer on the phone, again, that initial conversation, they're telling you good, detailed answers to your questions. They're explaining to you what this process looks like when you hire them and what you can expect going forward. There's a case strategy discussion. They're telling you, hey, if we get in this, say it's a work injury, if we get in this, this is what it looks like. We're going to file an entry into your existing work comp claim. We're going to get a lawyer for the insurance company involved. Then we're going to be able to move forward in the work comp system to get you the treatment that you need, to get those weekly benefits you should have been getting, whatever the situation is. But you should get a nice strategy presented to you so you know, if I hire this lawyer, this is what's going to happen. And the other part of that is there should be transparency about the risk or the problems that you have with your claim. Again, I talked about this in the last episode. We're always up front. We're not just going to paint a rosy picture for somebody just so they'll sign up. we're going to tell them up front, here's the potential problem you have. Maybe you didn't report your work injury as quickly as you were supposed to. You should have under the law. And this could present a huge hurdle to making the claim. Or maybe this particular injury that you're saying you have now wasn't really clearly reported at the time. And this could present a problem going down the road. In a car accident, maybe we're going to be talking about you might have some fault in this accident because you did have the obligation to yield to that oncoming car. Now, maybe they were speeding, and maybe we're going to try to get the electronic data from that vehicle to find out just how fast they were going. But again, we want to lay it out there. We don't want to just tell you, oh, yes, we're going to put all this together. We're going to get you full and fair compensation. And then a few months down the road, there's a different story. That's not cool. And that is no way to begin a relationship. And the other thing you want to hear is, does that lawyer, does that law firm have experience with similar cases to yours? Is this something that is new to them, or have they seen this many times? And obviously, the more of these types of cases the lawyer and the law firm have handled, the more familiar they are with all the potential issues that could arise, and they know how to handle the case. And the other thing is, does that lawyer, does that law firm, do they present the willingness to say no? So, what do I mean by that? Do they tell you if you're asking a question that the lawyer believes the answer is no, and whatever that might be, do you think I'm going to be able to get X, right? Some form of damages. Sometimes people ask me about punitive damages, for example. They say, can we get punitive damages? And in the majority of cases, punitive damages, which are an elevated level of damages, they're meant to be there to punish the defendant, deter future similar conduct by others. That's a lot of times we're telling people, no, your case does not rise to the level of punitive damages, but we're going to tell you that up front. And a lawyer has to have that willingness to say no to you in order for you to be able to trust that lawyer's judgment. Again, a lawyer that comes out as a yes man or a yes woman, that's something to really think about. Are they just telling me everything I want to hear? So I'll sign up with them, and then they're going to break the bad news to me somewhere down the road. Keep that in mind. Good lawyers don't oversell outcomes. They give you a realistic picture of what to expect through the claims process for the injuries and damages that you have. Now, another obviously critical part of figuring out which lawyer you want to hire is you understanding their fees, any costs that are going to be associated, and what communication is going to look like between you and your legal team. So, what you have to understand is most lawyers, I can't really think of any lawyers that handle personal injury that don't handle the case on a contingency fee basis. So, what do I mean by that? Personal injury lawyers usually represent people on a contingency fee basis, meaning you don't pay them any front. They are willing to take on the risk of never getting paid unless they get money for you. And I will tell you, anybody that's holding themselves out as a personal injury lawyer that asks you to put money up to cover cost or to cover some of their time or anything like that, that's a huge red flag. What that would tell me, at least, is they don't have the wherewithal to appropriately pursue your claim. They don't have the financial support to incur the cost. when you're pursuing a personal injury claim, I mean, anything from just ordering the police report, very small cost, $11, to ordering lots of medical records copies, the copies of the medical bills, because you have to have the itemized billing from the provider, that can start to get more expensive. That can end up being hundreds of dollars, if not more, just depending on the extent of what your injury and treatment looks like. And again, a well established, a well run, a well experienced personal injury law firm, they are going to have the financial means to incur all of those costs and only get reimbursed on those costs if they get you money. And the same thing goes with the attorney's fee. They, again, a well established personal injury law firm should be financially stable. They can handle the risk of going 6 months, a year and a half, 2 years, whatever it takes to fully pursue your claim without ever getting paid until a settlement happens. So again, really big thing to watch out for. Is this a law firm that is financially sound, has been at this a long time, and they can fully fund and handle the financial part of putting the claim together? And again, if it gets into a lawsuit, these things can get really expensive because now you're talking expert witnesses and the law firm's having to pay those expert witnesses. Usually we're talking thousands of dollars now. So again, you want to know all of that. And on the communication side, you want to know how often you should hear about updates with your claim. The problem is a lot of times it can be twofold. Number one, maybe the law firm isn't working on your file as much as they should be, and you're not hearing anything. Or number two, they're working on your file, but they're not updating you. And that's just not good. Here at North End Injury Law, we say that you've already got enough stress with going through an injury and the claims process. You don't need the added stress of wondering, is anything happening on the legal front? And so for us personally, we do at least an every 30-day check-in with our clients. If they're in the process of getting medical treatment, sometimes as the law firm, we're in the background at this point, monitoring how that's progressing, making sure the client is getting the medical care they need, things like that. And if you don't have a system in place to stay in touch with your clients, months can go by and you haven't communicated with each other. And at some point, the injured person, the client is wondering, do I still even have these lawyers? Are they still my lawyers? And so what we say is no news is still news. What we do here is if somebody's in the treatment phase of their claim, every 30 days, we're going to check in. We're going to ask them, how's it going? How are you feeling? Have you been to anybody different? Anything. If we haven't heard from you, we're going to reach out. And again, you want to know that on the front side, what are my expectations of hearing from my legal team? Very important, because you don't want to be left in the dark. You're not buying a result. You're hiring a guide. Your law firm, your personal injury law firm, they should be your guide through this whole process. You've never done it before. You don't know what to expect. They should tell you what the expectations are. So what are some questions every client should ask before hiring a personal injury lawyer? Number one, so who actually works on my case? Who's going to be involved? And obviously the law firm should be able to identify a lawyer, and hopefully you're talking to the lawyer shortly thereafter signing or before signing. And obviously in personal injury law firms, there's usually a case manager. So, a paralegal that is assisting the lawyer on keeping in touch with you as the client. And you need to know that person's name. And there may be a case assistant that is also in the background helping collect medical records, police reports, things of that nature. You should know who that is. Those are important things, right? Because otherwise you don't know exactly who you hired. So very important for you to ask, who is my legal team going to be? And again, at our law firm, we are on the front side. We make our introductions. Again, you're going to be talking to the lawyer handling your claim. The case manager, the case assistant, all those folks are going to introduce themselves, talk with you. There's no question mark as to who your legal team is here at our law firm. Another good question is, what does a realistic timeline look like? And sometimes that's an easy question for a lawyer or the legal team to answer, and sometimes it's more difficult. It all depends on, obviously, the severity of your injury, what the treatment is looking like. Is this going to carry on treatment wise for some amount of time? Are you winding down your treatment? Are we going to be able to get everything put together, get it over to the insurance company? What's the reality of this potentially needing to be filed as a lawsuit? Because a lawsuit stretches the timeline out pretty dramatically. But again, very good question for you to ask your legal team. What does the timeline of my claim look like? And then finally, how do you decide when to settle? And again, what I always tell people is that we will never put pressure on our clients to settle their claim, to rush through medical treatment or anything like that. We want to make sure when the time is right for settlement, the person has gotten all the medical care they need. If they're going to need something in the future, we have a good understanding of that. If they're done missing work because of their injuries, we know that. Or if they're going to miss more time in the future from work, we have a good idea of what that looks like. But you need to ask your lawyer and your legal team, what does it look like when this is ready to settle? When does that look like? And they should be able to give you some idea of what, like I say, I just talked about. This is when we'll be ready to settle your claim, and not before that. So when you actually start reaching out to personal injury lawyers and talking to them and trying to evaluate, again, is this somebody I'm going to get to know and trust? These are the things that you have to have in mind. These are the questions you need to ask. These are the expectations you should have. And if you walk away from an initial phone call and you don't have all that, you don't feel good about that call, that's probably not the right lawyer for you. And it's probably time to move down the list and find the one that you are going to want to have alongside you through a pretty stressful process. And you need to keep these things in mind as you go through the process of hiring that personal injury lawyer. So now, on the next episode, which will be the final episode of this 3-part series, we'll talk about what happens after you hire that personal injury lawyer and how to be a great client. I would encourage you, if you missed the first episode, you can go here, click on it, watch that episode now, be a fully informed potential client for your injury claim so that you don't make a mistake hiring the personal injury lawyer that you're going to place your trust in to get you the best outcome possible. And in the meantime, walk alongside you through the entire process so that you don't feel like you're going about it blindly. You feel well informed and you really feel like you have a companion that is there to help you at every stage of the process. So until the next episode, as always, be safe and be well.